If you're anything like me, as a kid, you probably loved reading mythology stories, getting to read about all those different gods, the heroes, and the quests they went on to go slay monsters and save cities and princesses and kingdoms. Probably saw the movie Troy when you were in middle school and just were like, oh my god, Achilles is so cool. But you never had a chance to really live that life, get to live like those heroes. Until early 2000s when Titan Quest came out. Today, we are going to take a look at this old school ARPG and see, is it really worth it? And if you're familiar with the series, are there any ARPGs worth playing? Hi, I'm Cliff, and these are my Cliff's Notes. So, let's jump into it. As you can see here, we have our loading screen actually. Because I have all the DLC, I have the complete edition, the loading screen can actually be changed. So, you can change it by going into the menu screen. I have it set to Eternal Embers, which is the latest one. You have an Atlantis one, which is also okay. You have Ragnarok, Norse mythology, just a cold map. Immortal Throne, which is supposed to be Hades area. And then you have the original, which is set in Greece. So, let's go into Titan Quest. Titan Quest does still have online, so you can join multiplayer or host multiplayer. It does look like there's still a few people who use it, but when I was trying to join it, many of them were private. I only ever played with one person one other time. So, if you are trying to join an online game, it might be worth finding a Discord server so you can join people. Like we do with all of our ARPGs, we're going to try to create a new character before I go into anything too crazy. Now, since this is made by similar people, a few people who made Grim Dawn worked on this as well before Grim Dawn, there's a lot of similarities between the two. If you watch my first episode of Are There Any RPGs Worth Playing?, then you'll kind of recognize this screen. Here you can enter your name, you can choose male or female. It doesn't actually give you an avatar though of what you are controlling, which is a bit of a disappointment. You can't even see what the models look like until after you do it. I believe when you're making your first one, it may show you. But here is the model for the male. And there's no customization option with it. You can change the tunic color, which is just this little piece of fabric underneath them, which is fairly inconsequential if you ask me. You are also able to create an accomplished hero, which starts you at the beginning of the Ragnarok DLC. I believe that's level 40. Or you can create a legendary hero, which is at the beginning of Eternal Embers, the Chinese section of the mythology story. And it begins on legendary difficulty. They cannot enter normal or epic difficulty. For the sake of this game, we will start with a legendary hero because the beginning of the game is very, very slow, as is many ARPGs. So let's come up with a name. We will name him Leoric, because I've been playing Diablo 2 and I just thought of Diablo 3. So let's do that. Tunic color, we're gonna go with red, the color of blood of our enemies. So let's jump in. Oh, we're doing multiplayer. I don't want multiplayer. Let's do single player. Let's go. Now this is level 70, so we will start with all of our points and stats ready to be allocated, and we can decide how we want to do that. And once we get in, I'll show you, but it is very similar to Grim Dawn. Here is the beginning of Eternal Embers. The actual environment for Eternal Embers is very, very nice. I did like it quite a bit. There's a lot of colors, and compared to the base game, it looks much nicer. The way the base game works is you start off in Greece for Act 1, or the equivalent of it. Act 2, you go to Egypt. Act 3, you go to China. And then I believe Act 4, you go to Olympus. And those are the 4 main acts. And then Act 5, you start the underworld, then you can do Atlantis, and then you do the Norse area, and finally you have China. Anyways, you can zoom in quite a fair bit. I don't know who ever would play this game like this, but you do get a nice little visual from that. You have our hotkeys down here, our health on the left, our mouse buttons over here. Here you have a weapon swap. Up here you have your town portal, and then you have your mini map, which I imagine looked a lot better in 2006. In 2025, it is very, very tiny, but you can, as always, enlarge it with this and zoom out, zoom in. Again, similar to Grim Dawn, the map's not very well done. I don't enjoy this map. It doesn't tell you much information. You have a legend down here, but it's very, very, it's okay. It's serviceable. It's not nice though at all. I do not like their mini maps. You can move with it open, which is nice. There is that, but it seems quite not very useful, truth be told. Anyways, as we stated, I was going to show you the skill screen. So let's take a look at this. There are a ton of different classes. A ton. Look at this. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 classes. And just like Grim Dawn, they use a dual class system. So you choose 2 classes, and that actually makes up your main class. This game is also actually available on mobile, and that's where I played a lot of it. I played the most probably on mobile because this game lends itself really well to a phone touchscreen, I found. If you are thinking about getting this game on a phone or a tablet, it's actually very good. I recommend it. It's quite fun, it's quite easy to jump in and out of. The only thing is it doesn't have any cross saves. I did look online and you can do like a character edit, download mod, and then you can transfer your character, but I never ultimately did that, so I can't tell you too much information about that. Anyways, let's take a look. We have these 3, Storm, Earth, Dream. They're all very like magician based. Spirit is like necromancer kind of, but very, very loosely. It's not like Diablo 2 style. It's just you rely on spirit energy. Warfare is kind of like a warrior. Same with defense, very similar, just defense uses a shield, whereas warfare is more about offense. Defense is more about, you know, buffing yourself. Nature is some poisoning and then a lot of summoning wolves and healing. Hunting is archery. Rogue is daggers and poison and traps. Ruins is kind of like a tribal magic almost. It's almost like a totem master from Warcraft. And then Nadon, I haven't actually touched at all, but my understanding of them is they're kind of like a monk. Slightly. But we're not going to try them because it'd be weird to try something I've never tried before. So we are just going to go with a very standard warfare and defense, which is one of the strongest builds you can get in the game and is classified as Conqueror. So, sorry, I did that without talking. But here, like Grim Dawn, you first have to level up your mastery of your selected class, and these give you stats benefits, and they let you allocate points into here after you've reached the needed points. Let's show you again for here. So at level 1, we'll unlock this tier. At level 4, I believe we'll unlock the other tier. Yep. At level 10, we'll unlock the next tier. Yep. And then it goes all the way up to 40. Typically, you want to max these out as much as you can. Now, we actually need to kind of read this a little bit, which is slightly annoying. We're going to go Onslaught, a lot of points because that's a pretty big thing. We're going to do... Let's do that. We're not going to do that. We're going to do Battle Rage. Let's just upgrade these. And like most ARPGs, you can get items that actually boost these skills as well. We'll get Ancestral Horn. Let's do Defense now. We'll do this. Let's do... We're just going to allocate these points. I don't know how well this will go, actually. When you start in Legendary difficulty, it is not easy. But we will show you that. Let's do Colossus form. Let's do that. And let's do that. There we go. And then you see here, When we click I, we get our character screen, which has our new class, which includes the dual masteries, Conqueror. You have our health, our energy, strength, intelligence, and dexterity. Health is obviously health. You can boost that directly by just putting points into it. Energy is your mana, or your equivalent of it. Strength, usually needed for warrior type items or equipment. Intelligence is more wizard and elemental damage. Dexterity increases your offensive ability, defensive ability, poison, bleeding, and piercing damage. Here we have our resistances as well. There are 8 different types of damage in this game. Less than Grim Dawn, thank God, but still quite a fair bit. We have fire, cold, lightning, pierce, vitality, poison, bleeding, and physical. You have more information here. Secondary resistances, trap, energy, all of these. And then damage and duration bonuses, monster bonuses, and your elapsed time in the game, and total deaths, which is actually a neat feature to include. Anyways, let's equip our thing. So we'll use Onslaught on our right mouse button. Ancestral Horn calls a bunch of guys to help us out. Battle Awareness, enter a state of heightened awareness. Batter, we do want. And there we go. So let's continue on. When you start as a legendary character, you meet this guy who introduces the game to you. And he shows us our first voiceover line. So let's listen.
Oh, thank the heavens. You're the hero the Emperor sent for, aren't you? The Titan Slayer? Well, please pardon me for skipping the formalities, but I'm sure you can see what is going on here. Shang-Chi and his spawn reached the residence a few hours ago, and we lost the residence to them. Please, you must slay them, lest they defile this whole place and butcher the remaining servants. There's a cave a little south of here that should take you down the precipice safely. It's how I escaped. If you cross the cave, please be on the lookout for the Emperor's sacred armor. I tried to save it from Shang-Chi's spawn, but it was too heavy, so I hid it. I am certain you will put it to good use. Now go, Titan Slayer. Hurry.
On our new DLC quest. The reason they are calling us Titan Slayer in this game is because in the base game, you end up killing Typhon, who is trying to take over Olympus. And if you aren't familiar with that name, he is from Greek mythology. He's a Titan. Anyways, down here we have our rebirth fountain, or our resurrection thing. These serve the same purpose as a Stake of America in Elden Ring. So they're just a respawn point should you die. They're not, you don't teleport to them, but if you do get one and then you exit the game, you will start the game once again when you turn the game back on at that rebirth fountain. In the Eternal Embers DLC, since we selected Legendary Hero, we do not currently have any equipment. So the game will actually bless us with a few items over here before we enter the main city. So we have these 2 chests, we just click them and we get all these items, but we don't have enough anything to use them. So let's fix that. The problem with using these though, as you see, is despite their huge resistance buffs, they do actually have negative 17% experience gained. Negative 17% experience gained. Negative 17% experience gained. A negative 21 experience gained. No, negative 17, sorry. Negative 17% experience gained. Basically making us gain 0 experience, which is a huge problem. We're going to put on the Dragon King's axe for now, so let's grab some strength. I think we need about 400 strength max, but it doesn't matter. One nice thing you'll see in Titan Quest, similar to Grim Dawn as well, is this little slot for an artifact, which gives you quite a few bonuses. However, they are very difficult to actually gather the materials for. I think on my mobile version, which I played the most, I probably played 30-40 hours on it alone. I don't think I actually ever made a good one. So they're not very useful, which is a huge problem. Let's continue on, though, now that we've got some equipment, and then we at least have our resistances are now 0, as opposed to being negative whatever, because we're in legendary mode. Let's put on this, which is this toggle. You see it reserves our mana, which is a nice factor. It does make it so we can't actually use Ancestral Horn, though, which is problematic. How much energy do we need for that? There we go. That's worth it for putting the few points into that so that we can use Ancestral Horn. I think we'll probably do that. This is Colossus form. We have another Rebirth Fountain, and we get our first fight. Let's see how this goes. And we're getting murdered real fast. This is what I mean by legendary being crazy tough. Even though they give you all this equipment, it's almost impossible to do anything. So we're gonna run past all these guys since we can't do anything to them. We can actually probably summon Ancestral Horn and let them do the fighting for us. Oh. Why am I getting mana drained? That's so weird. Let's do this. There we go. Alright. Now we have maybe a small fighting chance. We're not going to gain any experience though, because again, all of our equipment. Alright, some of them are dying. Yay. Yeah, these guys are murdering us. Come on. There we go. Alright. So we have, again, yellow is rare. What I just picked up, this light green, I believe is unique from what I remember. Green is just magic, but we're going to pick all these up because we're going to be so broke for money. And we desperately want to change our equipment so we're actually gaining experience. So even though we lose out on the minus 17 reduction to things, we're going to get rid of that. We're going to do a bit more strength just so we can wear stuff. And then we'll change these out. Let's do that. Oh, we can't do two-handed? Alright. Required strength is 650. We don't need 650 strength. That's a bit too much. Putting 600 into strength is not a good idea. I don't recommend it. From all the guides I read, it's not the thing to do. But your starting point in the legendary mode is very, very hard. It's hard to progress when they start you off with such difficult enemies to kill, essentially. But what we can do is we can take this portal to Helos, which is one of the earlier acts. And then you guys can also see the early environment. This is the start of Titan Quest. This is the start of the base game. This is the very first place you spawn, and then you get your very first quest. Let's listen to this voiceover.
You there, soldier! If you've come looking for rest and peace, you won't find it here in Helos. Our village has recently been beset by satyrs and other vile beasts. The help of your fighting arm would be greatly appreciated. Our farmers cannot get to their fields and our supplies are running low. Please, go down the road toward the village and help where you can.
Alright, so he wants us to go to this village and help out. One thing I have noticed with this game is the voiceover here I like better than Grim Dawn. It's not as gravelly, it's not as, frankly, ridiculous. Grim Dawn was slightly ridiculous in how they did the voiceovers. But this game's very standard, is the word I would use. So here we're just going to onslaught and attack these people. We're continually right-clicking, just so we can stack our onslaught, which is why we have that aura spinning around us. Let's talk to him. We can skip by clicking on them, and then it skips the audio, and then we can walk away. So if you don't want to listen to all of them, or if you do them a lot, you obviously can move past them. The more we attack, the bigger our little aura grows, and the faster we actually attack, and the more damage we do. However, as you can see, our damage is quite low. We're not doing much. Let's take on the first real quest.
I'm Diomedes, the leader of this small village. Do you mean to say that you fought your way here? If that's true, then please, I beg
I'm
of
not
you,
going to make us listen to this. He talks a lot. But essentially, he sends us up to the northeast to go to a farm to kill some people. We're going to sell these. Sell these. Let's grab... can we grab a shield? I don't think we can. Oh, we can. Wonderful. So now we can at least use our shield thing. We're going to jump a few more points into strength because we really don't have much, actually. So let's do that. These you can't sell, so we're just going to drop them all. Our goal is to not use them as early as possible. We also want to get rid of the pendant if we can.
Good morning, friend.
I forget if they sell pendants. They sell these, yes, the beads, which will work. Sure, that's not really one we need. I grabbed the wrong thing, but that's okay. We're just going to live with it. Anyways, let's continue. You can grab a torch, which if you're starting the game from scratch, the torch is a very strong item against these due to the fire damage. We have our shield bash, and this is how the game flows. As you can probably imagine, it's not too engaging. Sure, we have some enemies, but we're just holding down a button, and the graphics make the game not as enjoyable. I know I've been playing D2R, Diablo 2 Resurrected, a lot lately, and the combat in that feels very nice. Here, it's not as nice. You're kind of just walking around doing God knows what. We're going to do this, and then we're just going to attack the shaman. Let's heal up. We killed the shaman, well done. And then we just continue walking. All this equipment, though, that we're getting is too low for us, truthfully. Since we're level 70, it's not going to actually work for us in the legendary game mode. But after showing you guys the beginnings of the game, I did want to show you guys some other characters I have made. Ones who I've played a bit more so we can see a bit more. So we will show you this. Let's do my other Conqueror, since that is on the desktop the one I am the furthest with probably, or at least the most fun to play. Similar setup, we're doing the same build essentially, but my skills are a bit more evened out. I have these ones, and then I have my warfare tree. And I have equipment that is much better for our current level. We have the Shadow String, which is a blue, which I believe blue is rare, if my memory is serving me correct. But again, you see I do not have the artifact slot, because to get the artifact slots, you not only need one of these, an arcane formula, but you also need all of these materials. So for this one, I need a scroll of arcane power equipment, and then I should actually be able to make it. You see here it says completed relic vault for the essence of the golden fleece, meaning I do have it in my bank, which is useful that you can pull materials from there to use, but they're hard to gather. It is very time consuming to get all the materials. Right now we are still in Act 1. I have not gotten too far with this. We are heading up to Athens. So we will continue on to there. First, we go through the cave, or the catacomb. Sorry, we just came from there. It's been a while since I've played this character. Well, let's continue on and maybe show you the end boss for Act 1, the Telekine. We have some Medusas, and since this character is actually geared for their current level, we kill things very quickly. There's the drop. We go to Gnosis, where there is a big dungeon to explore, and the Minotaur. The Minotaur is kind of annoying because they have you go through an actual labyrinth, and the developers decided to make the labyrinth
Welcome,
proper.
stranger.
Here you have an arcane seller. They typically sell stuff for mages, and combat typically for combat people. Here is where you will make your stuff. So for instance, if I wanted that, I would make it. We can actually do this one. This is 35 offensive, 40 poison, 30 energy. It doesn't give us any big benefit, actually. There's no big reason to use that one. 18 life leech would be good, but again, we need an Essence of Archimedes mirror. We don't have. None of these we can actually make. We can only make the crappy one. Let's continue on. I want to show you some of the better fights. This is the essence of the game. I know it's the essence of most ARPGs, but the thing with most ARPGs is the skills feel a lot bigger. This suffers the same issue I have with Grim Dawn, which is when I use skills, they blur together. You don't really know what I'm using. There, maybe you do, because it's the only one that actually looks unique, being from a completely different tree. But it's hard to tell. There we have a scream, but even the war horn, war horn, doesn't make you feel like, oh wow, I just used a strong skill. It could be due to its age, but then if you consider it's due to its age, you even brings up memories of, obviously, Diablo, we just talked about, where you had, you used Frozen Orb for the first time in Diablo 2, and you're like, oh my god, this is so cool. You use the Fire Hydra in Diablo 2, you're like, what is this? Even a Barbarian, you use Whirlwind for the first time, and you're like, oh, this is so cool, I'm just mowing down enemies. This game does not replicate that feeling. Even when you get a maxed out characters. Even if you consider it or compare it to games like Sacred 2, if anyone has played that. I know they are remaking that soon, and that may be another future video. But that game, your abilities are distinct. You kind of know what you're using based on the visual cues. The visual cues here, horribly lacking. Even these little traps, you probably didn't even realize, but there was a little trap there that these enemies put down that breaks when they die. It doesn't show up as anything. You just see these little lines spinning around. The game doesn't reward you for the skills you use, and you don't feel like how you really want a hero to feel. See, that little trap, which is so minuscule, so difficult to actually see when it spawns, and there's no audio cue or anything. They've nailed the gameplay in terms of the gameplay loop. You run through, you kill enemies, you do all of that fun stuff. But they've missed out on actually rewarding the player for going through, if anything. We'll show you one other factor you can consider when using this game, which is the farming loop. This game rewards its players for killing bosses and taking large treasure chests. So we're going to show you what I mean by that. In this game, bosses spawn in very specific places. There's sometimes unique monsters out in the field, but if you're looking for material, typically you're going to want to find bosses that have them. So here we have this Minotaur, who is the first boss you encounter in this game. Actually almost killed me a few times when I started, and by almost I mean did. Very tough boss. They are usually placed about 4 levels above your character, which is ridiculous. The leveling system in the game as you're walking around the world is also crazy. You'll see monsters spawn in the wild that are about 4 levels higher than you, and it doesn't make sense to me. I don't understand how they did the leveling in this game. Here we have the majestic chest, which is typically where you will go for the loot, and you'll find these after several bosses. But as you can see, we didn't get anything. We're on normal difficulty. That's not very surprising. Once you get a higher level, it becomes a lot easier to get the materials. But overall, is Titan Quest a game worth playing? In 2025, should you get this ARPG? If you really, really love mythology, love it up the wazoo, and you want to see a different kind of take on it, it could be enjoyable. As I said, on the mobile device, because the game's faster, smaller screen, it's a bit easier to see your skills and stuff. I had a lot of fun. But on the computer, I can't recommend this. To go through the game takes so long on the computer. It feels so much faster on on the phone device. Additionally, the skills are severely lacking. It will be interesting to see how the game takes them in Titan Quest 2, but I really hope they promote more of a dopamine rush from those skills. The majestic chests are a nice touch for you to get your dopamine rush, but the actual progression of this game was just not engaging. This game follows you through, so you hunt this monster called Typhon up to Olympus, and you go through all these different cultures, which is a very neat idea, but every area just felt kind of similar in the story. You were just kind of hunting one monster from one area, and it doesn't actually engage with much of the mythology behind each area, besides just shoving in monsters from that specific area. Anyways, that's it for these cliff notes. If you guys think Titan Quest is for you, or you guys think it deserves another shot, let me know down below. But until next time, peace.